So what's up? You must have come here for a reason, Michael? The manager of the bar said as he skillfully prepared and served some snacks. Actually, I got this from my daughter, Lily. I handed the white envelope I had taken out of my bag to the manager. Lily, huh? So you've been in touch with her? Michael smiled as he took the envelope. No, I haven't seen or contacted Lily or Grace for 21 years. I didn't even tell them my new address when I moved. But this arrived 3 days ago. Michael looked surprised when he saw the contents of the envelope. This is a wedding invitation, isn't it? I nodded. After divorcing Grace, I immediately moved into a small apartment. Of course, I didn't tell Grace where I had moved. Why would Lily send me an invitation? I wondered aloud. It's obviously because she wants to invite you, Mark, Michael said. But I was a father who couldn't even celebrate her birthdays properly. But Lily had the courage to send you an invitation. I don't know how she found out your address, but she must have wanted her father to celebrate her big day with her. His words resonated with me, and I felt tears welling up. Encouraged by Michael, I made up my mind to see my daughter for the first time in 21 years. My name is Mark Johnson. I married Grace Thompson when I was 25, and our daughter Lily was born a year later. Children are so adorable. I wanted us to always live happily together as a family. Having a child made me feel more responsible as a father. After graduating from high school, I had worked as a carpenter for 10 years, but I started thinking I needed to earn more money. I grew up in a single-parent household, and we were poor, so I didn't want my child to go through the same hardships. My mother had taken out loans, so I wanted to pay them off for her and let her have an easier life after raising me on her own. After much deliberation, I decided to change jobs and become a long-distance truck driver, which paid better. As a long-distance truck driver, it wasn't uncommon to be away from home for 3 to 4 days at a time. Back then, I worked relentlessly, pushing myself a bit for the sake of my family's happiness. However, my actions seemed to differ from the happiness Grace had envisioned. Welcome back. Yesterday, Lily. Grace would happily talk to me about Lily when I came home after my long absence. But at the time, I had no idea how Grace felt. Look, I'm working hard for the family, so at least let me get some rest when I'm home. I'll listen to your story when I wake up. I would head straight to the bedroom when I got home. Without any ill intent, I would say these things to Grace, who was taking care of little Lily by herself. I'm sorry, I can still remember Grace's sad, apologetic face. It would have been better if she had gotten angry at me. Maybe then I would have noticed how she felt. But I knew better than anyone that Grace wasn't that kind of person. She never spoke ill of others. She always prioritized the feelings of those around her over her own. Without realizing it, I had driven such a kind-hearted Grace into a corner. You didn't schedule work for this Saturday, right? Grace asked me timidly one day. What? I'm going to be at work. I leave on Friday and come back here on Monday. Why? Is there something on Saturday? Grace hung her head when she heard my words. It's Lily's 4th birthday. When Grace told me, I finally realized that this Saturday was Lily's birthday. Sorry, I'll take Lily shopping next week and get her whatever she wants. You had work last year and the year before that too, right? Grace glared at me, her eyes brimming with tears. You promised Lily last year that you'd definitely celebrate her 4th birthday together. I was at a loss for words for a while as Grace shouted, sobbing. But it's not like I was out having fun. I didn't want them to be miserable like me just because we didn't have enough money. That's why I'm working like a horse. While I understood what Grace was trying to say, I was a little annoyed at this point. Sorry, but it's work. I'm doing it for our family. I'm sorry too, saying that. Grace wiped her tears and fled to the bedroom. Good morning. The next morning, I was relieved to see Grace acting as usual. I finally understood. On Friday morning, I greeted Lily as always. Lily Daddy will be back on Monday. Be a good girl and listen to Mommy. If I mentioned her birthday, she would remember our promise and things would get out of hand, so I didn't mention it on purpose. Bye-bye, Daddy. Lily smiled at me without a care as usual. When I get back, I'll properly tell her happy birthday and I'll buy her what she likes. I left home as usual, convinced that working for the family was my mission. However, at the time, I never imagined that this would be my last memory of Grace. On Monday, I came home with a stuffed toy of a dolphin, Lily's favorite. I had bought it without thinking when I saw it at a store just off the road. I'm home. I was astonished to see the dark, empty room. Grace Lily, and all their belongings were gone. Instead, there was a divorce petition and a note on the desk. I've lost sight of what it means to be a family with you. I'll raise Lily on my own. The note also said that Grace's parents were furious and that I should never visit their home. I slumped to the floor on the spot. What had I been doing? I had no understanding of Grace's feelings at all. I was filled with nothing but regret. Although the note said not to come, I drove for 3 hours in a hurry to go to Grace's parents' house. Of course, I was turned away by her parents and wasn't allowed to see Grace or Lily. This is why we were against her marrying you. Grace looked so haggard, the poor thing. I bet you didn't know, but she's been seeing a therapist. I had no idea about any of that. What? Grace never said a word. When I tried to make excuses, saying it was the first I'd heard of it, Grace's mother berated me. You never listened to her, did you? You were hardly ever home, and when you did come back, you'd go straight to the bedroom. Don't ever show your face in front of us again. I couldn't argue any further. Grace was an only child cherished by her parents. Her father worked for a major company and apparently intended to have Grace marry someone from a good background. Then I came along, a high school graduate from a poor single-parent family with a low income. Grace's parents had always been against our marriage. Despite that, I went to Grace's parents again and again to convince them. I will definitely make Grace happy. I promise I'll never make her regret it, so please trust me and let me marry her. In the end, her parents gave in and allowed us to get married. So it was unforgivable that I had made Grace feel sad, much less that I had driven her to the point of going to the hospital. We'll be responsible for Grace and Lily, so don't ever come here again. That's the only thing you can do. The front door slammed shut, and all I could do was hang my head. Just as her father said, the only thing I could do now was to accept the divorce and disappear from their lives. My memories after that are hazy. Somehow, I made it back home and filled out the divorce papers as instructed in the note. I sent them to Grace's parents' house. A few days later, I received an email from Grace. It was like a business notice, simply stating that the papers had been submitted and that there was no need to reply. And just like that, I became a stranger to Grace and Lily. Time passed, and 21 years have gone by since the divorce. I'm now standing in front of a bar. There's a sign on the door saying, "Closed today." "Oh right, they're closed every Wednesday," I muttered, shoulders slumping as I turned to leave. "Hey, is that you, Mark?" The manager, Michael Taylor, who happened to come out, called out to me. "Long time no see," I said. "It really has been a long time. Come on in, but you're closed today." "That's why we can talk about all sorts of things, just the two of us." Michael beckoned me in with the same smile. As I sat at the counter, Michael swiftly served me a beer. "You're looking well. Cheers to our reunion after so long." His kind voice echoed in the quiet bar. "Nothing's changed here, it seems," I said, feeling reassured by the familiar interior. "It's been 10 years. No, 20 years. 21 years. I'm sorry for not showing up for so long. I apologized to Michael. Has it really been that long? Well, I'm just glad to see you're doing all right. Thanks for coming by." Back when I was a carpenter, my colleagues would often take me to this bar. Eventually, I started coming on my own too, and Michael would listen to my various stories. Michael was 20 years older than me, and he was like the father I never had while growing up. "So, what's up? You must have come here for a reason," Michael said as he skillfully prepared and served some snacks. "Actually, I got this from Lily." I handed the white envelope I had taken out of my bag to Michael. "Lily? Huh? So you've been in touch with her?" Michael smiled as he took the envelope. "No, I haven't seen or contacted Grace or Lily for 21 years. I didn't even tell them my new address when I moved. But this arrived 3 days ago." Michael looked surprised when he saw the contents of the envelope. "This is a wedding invitation, isn't it?" I nodded. After the divorce, I immediately moved into a small apartment. Of course, I didn't tell Grace where I had moved. I was so shocked that I had no desire to go to work, but I pulled myself together and worked hard until I finished paying off my mother's debts. It took me another 5 years to pay them all off. With the debts gone, I thought about switching to a less physically demanding job, but I felt like no company would want a high school graduate like me. So I'm still working as a long-distance truck driver even now. Why would Lily send me an invitation? I wondered aloud. "It's obviously because she wants to invite you, Mark," Michael said. But I was a father who couldn't even celebrate her birthdays properly. If I showed up at the wedding, Grace and her parents would surely be furious. I'm sure Grace, being kind-hearted, hasn't spoken ill of me to Lily. Lily herself was still young, so she probably didn't understand how immature I was. Even if Lily didn't think badly of me and actually wanted to see me, I figured Grace and her parents still hadn't forgiven me. But Lily had the courage to send you an invitation. I don't know how she found out your address, but she must have wanted her father to celebrate her big day with her. His words resonated with me, and I felt tears welling up. By the way, do you have a new family now, Mark? Michael asked hesitantly. No, my mother passed away 6 months ago, so I'm truly alone now. It's lonely, but Grace and Lily are the only ones I love. I think living in a way that won't shame them is the least I can do to atone for my sins. My mother had urged me to remarry many times. I'm sure she was terribly worried about me being left alone after she was gone. But I stubbornly refused. I couldn't even imagine walking through life with anyone other than Grace and Lily. You were head over heels for Grace from the day you met her, weren't you, Mark? Michael said, his eyes narrowing in reminiscence. I had met Grace at this bar. It was when I was 24. As usual, my colleagues had brought me here. That day, there happened to be a group of smart-looking people in suits sitting at the next table. Among them was Grace, who was smiling modestly. I thought she was cute, but my first impression was that we probably lived in different worlds, judging from her appearance. I didn't pay much attention to her at the time and was drinking with my colleagues as usual, but the alcohol hit me faster than usual, perhaps because I was drinking on an empty stomach. Grinning like an idiot, I accidentally knocked over a beer bottle, spilling it everywhere. Grace immediately handed me a towel from the next table. When I spilled that beer, didn't she? Remembering our first encounter after so long made my heart ache. You fell in love with her in an instant, Mark. I could tell just by looking at you, Michael said, making me feel embarrassed, but it was absolutely true. The kind-hearted Grace responded quickly to the accident at the table next to hers. Are you okay? Drinking too much is bad for your health, she said, peering at my face with concern despite me being a total stranger. I was captivated by her. I'm so sorry, thank you very much. I'll be careful not to let this happen again, I said solemnly, the drunkenness instantly wearing off. Grace laughed at the sight. Just please take care of yourself, for your sake and your family's. What a beautiful soul she had. I completely fell for Grace with those words. After that, I started coming to the bar alone, hoping to see Grace again. I even talked to Michael about it and had him secretly contact me when Grace came to the bar. In this way, I gradually closed the distance between us, pretending it was just by chance. I was upfront with Grace about myself from the start. Of course, I wanted to date her, but since I already felt like we lived in different worlds, I wanted her to tell me right away if it wasn't going to work out. However, Grace didn't seem to mind at all that I was a high school graduate, a carpenter, and from a single-parent family. On the contrary, she genuinely respected me, saying things like, "You've already been working for 6 years even though you're only 24. That's really impressive. I was thrilled by her words. Grace was the complete opposite of the high society girl I had imagined. She was warm, kind, and unpretentious. As time passed, we started dating seriously. Despite her parents' disapproval, Grace stayed firm. I love you, Mark. I'm not interested in what my parents think about our relationship. Hearing her say that made me feel like I was the luckiest man in the world. Eventually, we got married, but I could never shake off the feeling that I wasn't good enough for her. So I worked even harder, thinking that providing for the family was the best way to prove myself. But in doing so, I lost sight of what was truly important. Sitting in the bar with Michael, these memories felt bittersweet. She was too good for me, I muttered. Mark, you did your best with the knowledge you had at the time. It's easy to look back and see the mistakes, but you were trying to take care of your family in the only way you knew, Michael said, his voice gentle but firm. I guess I sighed, but that doesn't change the fact that I wasn't there when they needed me the most. Michael reached over and squeezed my shoulder. You have a chance to make things right now, maybe not in the way you imagined, but you can be there for Lily on her special day. Yeah, I nodded, feeling a mix of apprehension and hope. I'll go. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. I bought a new suit, got a haircut, and tried to mentally prepare myself for the encounter with Grace and her parents. On the day of the wedding, My hands were trembling as I held the invitation. I arrived at the venue early, hoping to avoid any unnecessary confrontations. As I walked into the grand hall, decorated with flowers and filled with people dressed in their finest, I felt out of place. Then I spotted her, Lily, standing near the entrance, her eyes scanning the crowd. When she saw me, her face lit up with a smile so bright it nearly brought me to tears. "Dad," she called out, rushing over to hug me. "You came? I wasn't sure if you'd get the invitation in time." I hugged her back tightly. "Lily, you look beautiful. I'm so proud of you." Lily pulled back and looked at me with a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Mom's not here yet, but she knows you're coming. Please don't be nervous." "I'm not," I lied. "I'm just happy to be here with you." The ceremony was beautiful. Lily looked radiant in her wedding dress, and her husband, John, seemed like a good man. When it came time for the father-daughter dance, my heart pounded in my chest. As we danced, I couldn't help but think of all the moments I had missed. "Dad, I want you to know that I don't blame you for anything," Lily said softly. "Mom told me everything, and I understand now why things happened the way they did." I swallowed hard, tears stinging my eyes. "Thank you, Lily. That means more to me than you know." After the dance, I found a quiet corner to gather my thoughts. That's when I saw Grace, standing alone, watching me with an unreadable expression. I walked over to her, my heart racing. "Grace," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Mark," she replied, her voice calm but with a hint of sadness. "It's been a long time." "It has," I agreed. "I wanted to thank you for not turning Lily against me. I know I made a lot of mistakes." Grace sighed. "We both did, but we're here now, and that's what matters. Lily wanted you here, and so did I." I was taken aback. "You did?" "Yes," she nodded. "Because despite everything, you're still her father, and you deserve to be a part of her life. Maybe we can start over, not as husband and wife, but as friends, for Lily's sake." A wave of relief washed over me. "I'd like that, Grace. I'd like that very much." As the night went on, I found myself talking and laughing with Grace and her parents, who had mellowed over the years. It wasn't the reunion I had once hoped for, but it was a new beginning. And as I watched Lily and John start their new life together, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Perhaps I couldn't change the past, but I could be a part of the future, and that was more than I could have ever hoped for. The wedding marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life. While it didn't erase the mistakes of the past, it gave me the opportunity to forge a new path and reconnect with the people I loved. Over the next few months, I made a conscious effort to stay involved in Lily's life. We would meet for lunch, talk on the phone, and I even helped her and John move into their new home. The bond between us grew stronger, filling the void that had existed for so long. Grace and I also managed to establish a cordial relationship. We would occasionally have coffee together, discussing our lives and the shared memories of our past. It wasn't always easy, but we both understood the importance of maintaining a harmonious relationship for Lily's sake. Grace had remarried, and her new husband, Peter, was a kind man who treated Lily as his own daughter. I was grateful that Lily had such a supportive family around her. One sunny afternoon, as I was helping Lily set up her new garden, she turned to me with a smile. "Dad, I'd been thinking about something." "What's that?" I asked, wiping the sweat from my forehead. "John and I have been talking about starting a family," she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement, "and we were wondering if you'd be okay with being a part of our child's life." I felt a lump in my throat. "Of course, Lily. I would be honored. You know, I never got to be the father I wanted to be for you, but I'd love to be there for your children." Lily hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Dad. That means the world to me." The news of Lily's pregnancy brought joy and anticipation into my life. I attended prenatal classes with her and John, offering my support and sharing the little knowledge I had. When the day finally came for Lily to give birth, I was a nervous wreck, pacing the hospital corridors. But when I held my granddaughter, Emily, in my arms for the first time, all the fears and regrets melted away. She was perfect, and I vowed to be the best grandfather I could be. As Emily grew, I became an integral part of her life. We would spend weekends together, playing in the park, reading stories, and even going on little adventures. She brought a light into my life that I hadn't realized I was missing. Watching her grow reminded me of all the moments I had missed with Lily, but it also gave me a second chance to experience the joys of fatherhood through my granddaughter. One evening, as I was putting Emily to bed, she looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Grandpa, will you tell me a story about when Mommy was little?" I smiled, stroking her hair. "Of course, sweetheart. Once upon a time, your mommy was the bravest little girl I knew." As I recounted the tales of Lily's childhood, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. I had come full circle, from a man burdened by his past mistakes to a grandfather who was actively shaping the future. My relationship with Grace had also continued to improve. We had found a comfortable rhythm, coexisting as friends and co-parents. Peter was understanding and supportive, never making me feel like an outsider. Together, we created a strong, loving environment for Emily. Years passed, and Emily grew into a bright, curious, and kind-hearted young girl. On her 10th birthday, as we all gathered to celebrate, I looked around the room and realized how far we had come. Grace, Peter, Lily, John, and Emily were all there, laughing and enjoying the moment. It wasn't the life I had envisioned for myself all those years ago, but it was better in many ways. That night, as I sat on my porch reflecting on my journey, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had given me a second chance, and I had made the most of it. I had found forgiveness, love, and a new purpose. And as I watched the stars twinkle in the sky, I knew that, despite all the twists and turns, I had finally found my way home. The years rolled on, and my bond with Emily deepened. We developed our own little traditions, like our weekly Saturday morning pancake breakfasts and Sunday afternoon nature walks. She loved to hear stories about her mother's childhood and my adventures, often blending them into her own fantastical tales. Watching her grow up was like experiencing fatherhood anew, with all its joys and challenges. Emily's teenage years brought new dynamics to our family. She was as spirited and curious as ever, but with the typical adolescent mix of rebellion and vulnerability. I was there for her first heartbreak, offering a shoulder to cry on and a listening ear. I cheered her on at her soccer games and helped her with school projects, sharing in her triumphs and consoling her in disappointments. Lily and John were incredible parents, nurturing Emily with love and wisdom. Our family gatherings became regular and cherished events, filled with laughter, love, and the occasional bout of chaos. Grace and Peter remained integral parts of our lives, and our blended family thrived on mutual respect and shared love for Emily. One summer, Emily decided she wanted to trace our family roots and learn more about her ancestors. We embarked on a journey that took us to small towns and family cemeteries, piecing together the tapestry of our heritage. It was during one of these trips that we discovered an old diary belonging to my grandmother. The diary was filled with stories of resilience, love, and survival, providing a deeper connection to our past. Emily was fascinated by the stories and began to document our family history, turning it into a school project. Her dedication and enthusiasm were infectious, and it brought our family even closer together as we shared old photographs, letters, and memories. One day, as Emily and I were sifting through old boxes in the attic, she found a faded photograph of Grace and me on our wedding day. She looked at it thoughtfully before turning to me. "Grandpa, you and Grandma Grace look so happy here. Do you ever wish things had turned out differently?" I paused, reflecting on her question. "Emily, life is full of unexpected twists and turns. While there were times I wished I had done things differently, I wouldn't change where I am now. Every choice led me to you, to this family we have. And for that, I am deeply grateful." Emily smiled, hugging me tightly. "I'm glad too, Grandpa. Our family wouldn't be the same without you." The years continued to pass, and I watched with pride as Emily blossomed into a remarkable young woman. She excelled in school, pursued her passions, and maintained the kindness and curiosity that defined her. When it came time for her to apply to college, she chose to stay close to home, attending a university where she could continue to explore her interests in history and storytelling. One evening, as we sat together on the porch, Emily shared her latest project with me, a book chronicling our family's history. She had meticulously researched and woven together the stories of our ancestors, adding her own reflections and insights. "Grandpa, I want to dedicate this book to you," she said, her eyes shining with emotion. "You've taught me so much about our family, about resilience and love. I couldn't have done this without your stories and support." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged her. "Emily, you've made me so proud. This book is a testament to your hard work and our family's journey." "I'm honored." As Emily's book was published, it received praise for its heartfelt storytelling and historical depth. It brought our family closer and even sparked interest from distant relatives who reached out to reconnect. Emily's work had not only preserved our family's legacy but also expanded it. In my twilight years, I found contentment in the life we had built. I spent my days surrounded by family, sharing stories, and watching the next generation grow. Grace, Peter, Lily, John, and Emily were constants in my life. Their love and presence a reminder of the incredible journey we had all undertaken together. On my 85th birthday, our family gathered once more, filling the house with laughter and joy. As I blew out the candles on my cake, I made a silent wish for the continued happiness and health of my loved ones. Looking around the room, I realized that my wish had already come true. Our family, bound by love and shared history, was my greatest achievement. That night, as I sat on the porch under a blanket of stars, I felt a profound sense of peace. Life had come full circle, and I had been blessed with a second chance to make things right. In the faces of my children and grandchildren, I saw the legacy of love and resilience that would carry on long after I was gone. I closed my eyes, listening to the distant laughter and the rustle of the wind, and smiled. I had finally found my way home,